Genuine.
Out of
Just
control.
talking about Rekieta Law.
Rekieta.
And here we You jive?
You're frozen, but I'm live.
I mean, it's just we were just talking about Rekieta Law. I do know it's Rekieta Law.
No, it's Rekieta, isn't it?
Rekieta. No, I say Rekieta is because this is such an obscure thing for our show, but whatever. In the Chris Chan documentary, the last episode, Gino pronounces it Rekieta Law. That's what I've been calling it.
Oh
Rekieta
yeah,
Law.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I know it's Rekieta Law. Obviously, Nick Rekieta, our man. Shout out to Nick Rekieta.
He's our man of the people.
Man of the people. That's right. So, welcome back to Get the Mic, everyone. The only show where your host on the left, Owl,
And your host on the right, Brock,
dissect fiction for its mythological significance. Now, this is a live stream, obviously, so hope you like that little banter in the beginning, but we're going to go ahead and get started. And this is not Roshi's.
the thing is, you can't not touch it because it's sitting in your lap.
So what's the solution?
We give up. The show's over, guys.
Show's over. Move on. Well, the
Owl just has to sit perfectly still for the whole show.
The problem is this left one. If I drop it there, is that good? I can do this.
Yeah, I'm on right now.
Good thing that changed that. So we're going to talk about Dragon Ball as usual, and in particular episode 115. It's called Awaken Darkness, or Go Get the Super Sacred Water.
Is our audio messed up? That's so strange.
Our audio should be okay. It's just frozen. It does that sometimes. Yours is still working though.
Oh.
I wonder if I'm like blasting out though. I might be blasting out. Woo! Am I blasting out, Chris Sombra? We're having some technical issues. Good Lord.
Yeah, we had very important technical stuff to work out for the show for the past 30 minutes.
And we might have to, I don't know. We might have to take a hiatus if we can't get these things to work consistently. This is pretty frustrating. Anyways, we actually have had like whole episodes we've had to trash because of these stupid mics.
We've thrown away some of the best because of the mics.
Hey, what's going on, Ryman?
What's up, Ryman? Welcome to the chat.
We're just chilling. It says there's only one viewer, but 2 in the chat. That makes sense. Thank you, YouTube.
The 2 of you add up to 1 viewer for us.
So anyways, before we get started, now that we have our S together, before we get started, please if you like what you hear during the stream, give us a subscribe to our channel on YouTube and on Rumble. We upload new episodes Mondays and Thursdays to YouTube and Tuesdays and Fridays to Rumble, so check us out on those platforms. Anything else before we go ahead and start? I think we're about ready.
I think I am very ready to jump into this one.
Very ready. So let's go ahead and get very ready.
And get very into it.
Here we go. Animated. So, 1:15 starts with Goku asking Korin about the super sacred water. And the master tells him about the labyrinth of ice that protects the cave in which this Chujinsui is located. Accepting the mission, Goku invites Yajirobe, but the samurai refuses, going down the stairs looking for a snack instead. Looking in one of the water jars, though, Yajirobe falls into it. Just so happens to be that it's the jar that goes to the ice labyrinth. As Korin prepares Goku for his journey to the same location, he tells them that there's a darkness guarding the water and to be very careful. As Goku enters, Korin remembers Yajirobe calling to him instead of taking his usual cat nap. So, at the very start already, Yajirobe is he has to take place in this mission whether he likes to or not because of how he is a mirror of Goku in this arc.
Yeah, it's telling that the way that he falls into the labyrinth is going for a snack, right? It all speaks to what Yajirobe represents, which is that very selfish, it's almost like the want of the body type situation where the integration that Goku's going to have to go through here is part of that, right? And so whether Yajirobe likes it or not, whenever he goes to get food, when he searches for that sustenance, he falls into the pit, the same one that Goku has to fall into now.
And it's because his sustenance that he actually needs comes from his interactions with Goku in this journey. We'll get
In the
into
same way
it.
that like Bulma's changed by meeting Goku, right?
Right.
Yajirobe has also changed now that he's seen or experienced Goku.
Mm-hmm. And so, a couple things though. Before that, Korin telling Goku about the super sacred water. The way he sets it up, it gives this, and we use it as the thumbnail. Like a sprawling landscape of this labyrinth of ice, and Korin basically tells him like, you're gonna, if you get lost there, you're done for. You'll just search forever for a way out. You'll starve, freeze to death, whatever. And I think this is to set up a couple of things. First of all, the idea of a labyrinth being the thing that guards it. What is a labyrinth? But it's a manifestation of, I don't want to say chaos, but it's almost super orderly in which it is designed to break the order that you bring yourself into it, I guess. And so the fact that it's ice as well goes into the fact that it's preserving, and this is kind of an idea that if any Game of Thrones fans are watching, the preserving power of ice is kind of what preserves the divinity and sacredness of the water by keeping everyone else out.
Well, I want to point out that it is, by being an ice labyrinth, it is also a labyrinth made out of water, unmoving
Yes.
water, right? It's like a snapshot
Not
of
like
water.
stagnant water,
Not
but
stagnant, no.
yes.
Stagnant, I wouldn't say, but this is formed, right? And the reason I bring up water is because it has a lot to do with that. This is a place of the unconscious, right? And so it's like a labyrinth in the unconscious. It fits very well because of the idea of the Minotaur in the labyrinth as well, right?
Yes, and the rewards reaped from that
Yeah.
adventure. But what I want to reiterate about labyrinths in general is that they are kind of a it's almost inducing of pattern recognition in the mind to an extreme degree. You can't see over the top of the labyrinth, right? You have to be able to place yourself in time and space without having that frame of reference.
Right. And I really like the fact that it is a labyrinth of all things and that it's portrayed that way because we don't see it like a labyrinth once they go into it. It's portrayed differently, but the fact that
It's
the
kind of
whole
labyrinthine.
it starts out on a pathway and sort of
Mhm.
like, but we don't see it in the same way that like, I don't know, the more basic idea of a labyrinth you would see in something like Harry Potter, where it's
Sure,
literally
it's
just
not
like
like
a
it's not a
maze.
hedge maze or anything.
It
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
labyrinthian experience, which means that it's like going into the darkest part of the darkest forest that a person could possibly come up with.
But there's a mental aspect to it that I was
But
just wanting to bring up. A
and of course that
psychological
place
aspect, yeah.
is in the unconscious, right? It is a psychological place.
Which is why it's ice, right?
Yeah.
Because that fluid medium, let's say,
Right.
but it's frozen and it's preserving all of those, all of that, let's say, divinity, and it even preserves the bodies of the heroes that tried to get to it and failed. And so
It's almost timeless in that sense, right?
yes, and in fact, is it here in the next episode? No, endowed with the power of the gods. So later on, we'll hear too that it was the divine water was placed there by the gods specifically, right? Indicating that this is a sacred place. It's a preserving place and a timeless place almost.
Sacred and timeless are very close in definition, right? The idea that it's something that it's an idea that transcends time, you know, because there are people who would say that we're nothing like people who lived 2000 years ago. But there are ideas that are so fundamental to being that they transcend the ability to be eroded
And
over
they're so,
time.
let's say, they're so good when used practicably in throughout history that it's almost impossible to say that they aren't capital G good.
Right. The the form of good rather than the deeds of goodness, right? It's sort of the idea of the thing, which is a higher order pattern, right? And you had mentioned that the labyrinth is a lot about finding that pattern recognition, and this is that. This is trying to engage with the idea or the pattern of the thing rather than just act it out down low on in the world, right? Because
Right.
that's more of kind of what Yajirobe does as like a physical actor, as he's able to map that terrain, but Yajirobe's been dragged into this because he has no like self-consciousness, right?
And so he doesn't know the way out, but Goku doesn't care about the way out, let's say, whenever he goes down there to meet him.
Right.
But we'll get to that in a second. I did want to just close out by saying Goku has to go through this unconscious puzzle to get down to the deepest part of darkness.
Exactly. It's guarded by darkness. Very important.
And so he goes in, like we said, the Yajirobe goes in for multiple reasons. It's that sustenance he needs. It seems the universe is actually guiding him towards it, which tends to happen when on the proper path. And the last thing is that Korin warns Goku about the darkness and about how it's driven people mad there or like prevented them from getting it, whatever.
Right.
And it's a capital D darkness in the sub.
Also a concept. Also a pattern.
Yes. It is that dark part of the black paisley, let's say, and so that chaos and unconsciousness that Goku has to go through to get to it, is going to be what this labyrinth and this journey is going to be all about. So, in the icy labyrinth, Goku walks forward on the path to find Yajirobe, but when they try to return so that Yaj can leave, the path has already disappeared. Yaj gets frustrated at this and kicks the icy cross that blocks their path, only to reveal a lost adventurer frozen to his death. From the cracks made in the ice from this icy cross, a snow golem forms and attacks the pair. Each tries a method of attack on the monster, but to no avail. Eventually, they're blown back, and Yajirobe is used as a toboggan, going further and further into the icy wastes below.
the the imagery of it and
The
the
cross,
symbolism is
yeah.
so powerful in this whole segment. The whole cave section that people have said is arbitrary and that it's sort of like
It's a
getting a
MacGuffin, yeah.
MacGuffin. Yeah.
It's not.
It's really great, actually.
Goku walk and look at all the crosses here too. It's to say that this is the point of suffering and this is the point of suffering and meaning. The crosses almost indicate that Goku's on the right path.
Right. Well, he's in the zone of proximal development, which is essentially he's encountering as much chaos as he possibly can. And we've talked about this, and I want to lay this in here that Goku still has not reconciled the fact that he killed Grandpa Gohan and that darkness is within him, right? And so Goku is going into the darkest, whenever I call it like the darkest forest for Goku is the darkness that goes all the way through him, right? And so here we
Not
are.
just him.
Right.
It's a deeper darkness than that. And it's not even tackled fully here.
That's why I say it goes through him, but it's not his darkness
Mhm.
necessarily, right? But it is a darkness that he has. And the kicking of the cross is funny because it's Yajirobe who doesn't understand the purpose of being in this place, of being at a point of suffering, of being at a point of development like Goku would be, and confronting this thing about yourself or confronting your own nature. And so Yajirobe, he sees the cross and he disrespects it and opens up what lies beneath, right? And by that act allows this golem, this being of ice that is malevolent to take form, right?
Right. And this the monster itself is the idea that there's no way backward is something that can prevent people from going forward. And we see it as these adventures, like the very first one that Corin talks about. He ends up trying to find his way out. It's counterintuitive almost, but it's almost a Willy Wonka. It reminds me of a line from Willy Wonka, let's say, where he says, "You can't go out that way. You have to go forward to go back."
Yes.
And that's exactly what we see here, and that idea is manifest in this ice golem because despite their best efforts, they can't defeat this thing, and it's because one cannot defeat the idea of preservation in the face of what do I want to say? Yeah, one cannot, let's say, kill because it reforms too. Yajirobe slashes it with his sword. Goku uses the Kamehameha wave on it, saying that the Logos can't create anything substantial out of this kind of chaos, which is the natural order of the preservation of ice that we were talking about just a second ago, and the idea of progressing so far that there's a point of no return. That idea cannot be defeated by the logo saying, "Here's what you are," because it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, with him being a part of it's almost like he's in a spirit that is embodying the arena that they're in, or you could say that it's sort of like the spirit of the labyrinth itself, and that's kind of what the Minotaur does as well. It's a golem, which is a construct. It's constructed of the labyrinth itself, and so fighting back against the nature of the journey that they're on is not something that's going to get them where they need to go, and it's not going to get them out of it either. So the labyrinth itself is hostile. The concept of it is hostile towards you. Being in it is to be hunted by your own thoughts, your own darkness, and that you see that in like every representation of the labyrinth, right? Even the vines in the labyrinth in Harry Potter grab people and pull them in because the labyrinth itself is a hostile spirit that you have to be able to navigate inside of because it is you, and there is a hostility that you have towards yourself that you have to integrate. And so it's funny that in
Yeah, but it's hot. I had to go turn on the AC. We should be fine now. Well, I also had to unplug it
well,
because I
okay,
was going wild.
so the idea that Goku is going to ride Yajirobe like a vehicle on this path is it sort of like, well, if you can't get with a Yajirobe, then you're just a tool. You know, on this path, Goku is riding on his self-preservation instincts to continue toward the next step of enlightenment for himself,
I
right?
don't know if that's it. I think it's the drive to be nourished, actually, that is what is allows Goku to ride him down there
I
because
guess we can kind of put those two together, right? To be nourished and the self-preservation are sort of actually in this place they are one and the same,
well, in
right?
particular because the ice golem is going to kill them. So
Yes,
yeah,
but what the ice golem symbolically represents is death by failure to accept the terms of the labyrinth you've willingly entered, which Yajirobe has not willingly entered,
right.
but sort of has
Well, he
by coming
has.
here for sustenance.
He has, and that's what I was trying to say by
I wanted to make it just a bit more
yeah,
specific.
yeah, by trying to go against that, Goku has not. Let me start over. The idea of reaching a threshold where there's no going back, let's say, and the world has changed at this point is also another iteration that we've seen in this arc. And
Right.
so this is just an instantiation of that, a solidification of that, if you will. Solidification, ice
So you mentioned
solidification.
the world has changed. It's to say that there's no world for someone who comes in contact with this wisdom and turns away from it.
And there's no going back either.
Yeah.
You either are preserved as you are,
You
or
don't
you
progress
or
or
you
you progress.
progress.
Yeah.
Right. And we saw that Yajirobe would probably rather not, but it's his interactions with Goku and his self-preservation, like you said, his need for sustenance, all of that culminates in Goku's ability to use his relationship with Yajirobe to propel him down into the depths of the cave,
Which is to propel him into the depths of his own nature. Right.
which he would have to consider how he used to be to get to where he needs to be.
Exactly.
Got to go forward to go back.
Got to go back to go forward.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's basically it. And so they fly down into the darkness, and we don't really we don't see what happens to them for a little bit. But back at the king's castle, Piano orders the castle chefs to create horrid dishes for Piccolo in copious amounts, but in a very short amount of time. Outside, people are still dying from Piccolo's attack on the city, but it appears there are at least a few city defenders left, as one soldier tries to kill Piccolo. As they walk away, Piccolo being victorious over the regular soldier, obviously, as they walk away, Piano talks to Piccolo about the chefs, and Piccolo says, "We'll just kill him and make an example out of him, anyways." So it's really just destroying the idea of striving to even if these chefs acted in a holy way where they want to strive, Piccolo can just squash that in an instant. In fact, it's what he wants to do. And the fact that they are trying to make the dishes and failing to make the dishes makes him just want to crush them more.
Right. He's creating futility for them.
Exactly. And so it really goes in line with how he is, and the way that Piano takes glee in that is really kind of that mirror to Piccolo that we have in this arc. And I really like Piano. I think um he's one of the best Piccolo children, unless you count Junior, Ma Junior. So he kills the soldier who tried to kill him, and Sano, seeing that the soldier dropped his gun, contemplates and then grabs his rifle, aiming it at her oppressor, only for Piccolo to turn around and blast a soldier behind her with his eye beam. She thinks that she's dead. She's like, "I'm dead." Had the gun at him, whatever. Piccolo, though, is somewhat he doesn't even acknowledge her. He's too far beyond even acknowledging the existence of Sano and this malice that Sano can wield, as if that was anything to scoff at, right? Or anything to be alarmed at, rather. And so he basically ignores her, and as he turns around, it's even more apparent because Sano sinks down in despair and drops the gun on the ground.
Right. Because that is what Piccolo do. He frames your attempts at victory in such a way that you're demoralized and that you don't think that there's a way to succeed. And so his way towards any main character is actually not really to kill them. Generally speaking, he wants to kill the spirit that animates them, and that's why he's killed Roshi and Krillin, right? Because he's not actually about just killing his enemies. He wants them to be changed by his presence and made worse by experiencing him, right? It's the opposite of the hero, truly.
Yes.
And
everything is made worse by him.
and
Actively.
so yeah, so we see that this is the opposite end of what Goku's doing, where Goku is trying to ultimately be like a moralizing spirit. Piccolo acts as this demoralizing spirit, and so this just continues more and more as we go through this.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think I wanted to include that scene because it is a perfect encapsulation of that demoralization. And I think that's why it's in the show and the manga to begin with.
Definitely.
Sano, too. The other thing is, Sano being driven to a point where she'd be willing to wield malice. That is glorious for Piccolo. That's why he's not going to kill her. He's like, this child
I've destroyed innocence.
is now
Yeah.
accepting the unholy path because of me. How good, how great for me, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's we see this a lot in other fiction as well, where sort of the real true villain will leave the like wounded potential hero behind to have a grudge because he likes for them to be acting out of vengeance because ultimately it serves his ends.
It serves the spirit, the higher order spirit, which is why we say that Piccolo is not. Piccolo's ordered chaos in a malevolent and tyrannical sense.
Yes.
Because if that wasn't the case, he wouldn't care and he would just kill Sano, chaotic, stupid, just killing everything in sight, right?
Yeah, and this is going against again. Well, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Oolong who said that he thought that if he got if he got his wish, he would just destroy the world. And it's like, oh, you just don't understand what
Right.
real malevolence is.
Right, and that's because he's a fool.
Exactly. And so this is more evidence of that because his interactions with almost everybody is that effect.
Yes. And so the last thing we see is while Tien practices the Mafaba alone, Goku and Yajirobe awaken down in the cave with the super sacred water. The darkness, however, now taking a particular physical form and an interest in Goku, watches them from afar. As the pair travel down the cave, the darkness summons Master Roshi, announcing to him that they have guests. We don't know the intentions of darkness so far, but it's very interesting that it's Roshi that Goku finds in the darkness, just like Pinocchio finds Geppetto at the bottom of his.
That's precisely the reason that Goku has already found a different spiritual father, his physical father.
But now
whenever
we
he
got to
went-
go the next step. His
Right.
spiritual father.
This is the next step beyond that, right?
Yes. And so what does he find in the deepest darkness?
But that,
Precisely. And that's what we'll get to next episode.
yeah, it's gonna be real.
Oh yeah.
That episode's pretty intense.
We're gonna really get into it, and we're gonna get it, and then we're gonna really get into it.
And it will be have gotten into, right?
Yes.
It will be have gotten into. Quote me on that one. I
So
definitely
we
nailed
hope
it.
you guys enjoyed this episode because it sets up a lot of the stuff that we're gonna see, and this is kind of the last rising action. I guess the next two episodes are rising action as well, but it's really ramping up at this point. This was the last one where we don't have as much to talk about because it's more plot action heavy.
Yeah,
But I think in the next one,
the episodes operate in those pairs. We kind of point this out.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
This one is all a setup, so we can get into 116.
and 117.
True.
There's parts of 117, I should say. But anyways, so thank you for joining us on the stream. I think we got up to 4 concurrent viewers.
4 views.
4 views in 2 years. We got 2 more views. So that's we just got to keep going.
Yeah.
100 years.
This pace.
100 years.
Boom.
100 years, 100 views. All right. So if you liked what you heard, please give us a like. Did you want to add anything? I don't want to.
No, not really.
Okay.
The end of this is really just
It's a
tying
setup.
up the
It's
episode.
totally a setup, yeah. So if you liked what you heard, please give us a like, subscribe to our channel. Like I said, we upload new episodes Mondays and Thursdays to YouTube, Tuesdays and Fridays to Rumble. So check us out on those platforms. I'm your host on the left, Owl.
I'm your host on the right, Brock.
We hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night.